It was another warm, sunny day. Blake, the neighborhood bachelor, was watering the potted plants on his front porch when the phone rang. "Hello, Blake, this is Linda, your neighbor across the street. She seldom calls me unless she needs to borrow something. I wonder what this time." "Hi, Linda, what's up?" "Blake, I was wondering if you'd like to join us in a bridge game tomorrow at my house?" "Well, sure, Sal, but I'm not the best player." "May I ask who else is playing?" "Vanessa and Bonnie. We play every other Wednesday. Kitty usually plays with us, but since she got a day job, we need to find a replacement, and we thought of you since you work out of your house and would likely be available. So what do you say?" "So, it's sort of a girls' club, eh? And you want me to join and be one of the girls, right?" Blake said jokingly. "I didn't mean it exactly that way, Blake, but in a sense, I suppose so, yes." She started to sound defensive, so he had to back off quickly. "Not everyone appreciates his humor." "Sure, Sal, I'd be delighted, thanks for asking. I guess I can spare some time off in the middle of the week and work a Saturday every now and then. Sounds like fun." "What time, tomorrow?" "Oh, good. Be here by 11, we'll have a little lunch and then play cards. We take turns playing at each other's houses. Tomorrow's my turn." "Convenient, huh? I'm across the street and Vanessa and her sister Bonnie are next door." "Dress casual, we usually just wear jeans or sweats." "Okay, Sal, see you tomorrow, thanks." Wednesday, promptly at 11, Blake, wearing a new Nike exercise outfit he purchased for the occasion, crossed the street and joined the ladies at Linda's for lunch and cards. They were delighted to see him and warmly welcomed him into their bridge club. Linda, an obsessive housewife whose full-time task is maintaining her home, fussed around, more concerned about tending to her guests than playing cards. Ramona and Bonnie are sisters, both widowed, residing together, and each self-employed from their home, selling real estate. Blake, never married, lives alone in his house, which is adjacent to the sisters. He also has his office at home. The foursome sat around the table, all casually attired in assorted sweat outfits, nobody bothering to look their best. After all, they were neighbors and accustomed to seeing each other doing yard work and other mundane household chores. The time passed quickly, with the usual neighborhood gossip amid several hands of bridge. Vanessa is a fairly businesslike and assertive woman, but Bonnie is quite the opposite, a real cut-up, who kept everybody laughing. And, of course, Linda. Being a consummate homemaker, her conversation regularly revolves around her house, its contents, and how to keep it clean. They agreed to meet for the next Wednesday's game at Vanessa's, which they did. Vanessa was an excellent hostess. The lunch was good, and the game went well. They talked about everything from gardening to fashions. Blake, rarely having the opportunity to socialize with his neighbors, was readily adapting to the bi-monthly meetings with his female neighbors, and they were delighted with his contributions to the conversations, especially about women's fashions, especially lingerie. They were somewhat impressed by his knowledge of the subject. At some point, Linda asked him exactly what he did for a living that enabled him to work at home. They all had known him a long time, but his career never got past speculation. Blake disclosed that he was the regional sales manager for Warnaco, a large manufacturer of lingerie, and was fortunate to be able to do most of his work from a home office via telephone, fax, and computer, while only occasionally having to go in for meetings or meet with clients. Most of his business contacts were with his sales force. The conversation then shifted to the products his company makes, the Warner brand of brassieres and girdles, as well as other accessories. That opened up a whole discussion which might typically be considered girl talk. The subject evolved to a discussion of bras, their design, features, fit, and comfort, and they asked Blake technical questions about the many different styles and how they are designed, since he seemed to be a factory trained expert. Bonnie, sparked by the subject, noticed a semblance of a female bosom under Blake's less than loose top of his sports suit, and commented, "Blake, while we're on the subject, I gotta ask, you aren't wearing a bra now, are you? I mean, you do seem kinda busted for a guy." Blake began to blush at the discovery, but feeling somewhat comfortable with these ladies, replied rather sullenly, "As a matter of fact, yes I am. I was hoping it wouldn't be noticed," he added. The group went silent. The silence demanded an explanation. As terms of my employment with Warnaco, I was required to wear their products to experience what they're like. Required? How could that be? Why would they make you do that? Bonnie pressed on. The whole group was still very attentive. "Well, when I initially applied for this position," he explained, "it seemed I was competing against two women. I edged them out with my academic credentials, business qualifications, and experience in sales, but the CEO, a strong-minded woman, had a mindset to hire a female, so she saw to it that if they hired me, it was only with the condition that I follow the job description exactly as written, and that had been for a female new hire. It stated that if the incumbent is to represent the company's products, she must wear them to experience firsthand any problems to better relate to the customers. I'm sure the old buzzard thought she'd get me to back down and drop out of the race with those terms, but for the salary and benefit package that was offered, I would have agreed to anything, and I guess I did just that. I mean, what's the big deal? They're only items of apparel. Who is to see them, anyway? So how long have you been wearing lingerie, then? Vanessa asked. Gee, it's been about 9 years now. At first I wore them on workdays only, as they minimally required, but then it became an everyday thing, as it got to be pointless to switch back and forth to guy things just for the weekends and maintain a dual wardrobe of underwear. Actually, I've since gotten quite accustomed to our products, he said. Oh sure, it was a problem in the beginning, working in the office and trying to keep it concealed, especially the brassiere. It showed under my white shirts and I couldn't comfortably remain in a suit jacket all day. But then, after all, everyone knew I had to wear the things anyway. Word travels fast in an office. I finally was able to convince upper management to allow me to office at home, where I'd have more privacy and yet still be effective. How would they know if you cheated? They monitored me constantly. Subtle gestures, like touching my back to feel the straps or simply asking me what I had on that day. After all, failure to comply would have been grounds for termination. They really wanted a female in this job, and they were trying to make me suffer by embarrassing me. I gave up, mentally fighting the issue of wearing women's underclothes, and just learned to submit. What we do for money. By the time I moved my office to my house, I had adjusted to routinely wearing Lingerie, so they trusted me, I guess. Aren't you uncomfortable in girdles and bras every day? Linda inquired. Even I wouldn't wear that stuff that much. At that, they all nodded in agreement. I've learned that most females don't like to be contained in such elastic bondage. Well, actually, no. The garments we make are very lightweight. And if you get a proper fit, they're not bad at all. In fact, as I've learned, they can be very comfortable, he said, laughing. Though sometimes a bit of a nuisance. I've had to sample every item. Girdles with garters and open bottoms require hose to connect to the garters to minimize the garment from creeping up. Now I'll admit, hosiery isn't all that bad either. Ha, could any other man make that statement? Blake added as an afterthought. Maybe they were right about my wearing this stuff to gain first-hand experience. The girls started to chuckle as he started to sound like a typical salesperson. Geez, he knows more about this stuff than we do, said Linda, teasing. Obviously, I didn't need a bra, but my boss insisted that I wear one, and a fancy one at that being their trademark garment. Over the past 9 years, with my flesh constantly pressed and formed into a supportive bra cup, I think my chest have developed enough to fill the cups, he revealed. I've actually grown over 1 cup size since I started. I'm a naturally full A cup, now, almost AB. And I've gotten so accustomed to wearing a bra, honestly, I feel bare without one, he said shyly. The ladies could relate, and all nodded in admiration and understanding, as if they were talking to another woman. So now you're a man with chest. But that's not too uncommon. Many men have enlarged chest for one reason or another. It's mostly just flab on them, said Bonnie, who had been a nurse at one time in her varied career and was, herself, a full D cup. Yeah, but they don't wear brasiers to support them, I'll bet. Blake replied. No, likely not, but they probably should, or maybe would, if they could, Bonnie said with a wink. Yes, and it's such a problem trying to keep the damn thing concealed, even under an opaque sweatshirt you caught me, but, Blake sighed, as I said, the salary's good, and it's only a small sacrifice. And, maybe they were right, he pondered, the experience has helped me to understand the problems women have with their undergarments, most of which are designed by men who have no idea of what it's like to wear them all day, every day, he concluded. Maybe more of the male designers should be made to wear them. Isn't that the truth? Vanessa said, speaking for the group. Oh, I don't really see your bra, Blake, but I did notice your bosom, Bonnie added. They're unusually pointy for a man with even a flabby chest. Only the form and support of a good bra could do that. A Warner bra, he corrected, sounding like a TV commercial, as the group laughed. So that's why we never see you in a t-shirt or without a jacket, even in the backyard, Vanessa said. Do you ever go all the way and wear a dress, even in the house? I should think you would with all that pretty lingerie and foundation garments your company makes. No, I have no reason to, and thankfully, our company doesn't market any dresses, he said laughing, or the old witch would have me in those, too. She still prefers to hire a female for this job. Bonnie, half in jest, presented an idea for the next week's bridge club activity, since it was to be her turn to entertain. Instead of playing cards, she suggested the group go to the Country House, an upscale restaurant, for lunch. They were hosting a special noontime fashion show for women patrons. She thought it would be a nice change of pace instead of playing cards, and Blake could view his competitors' products being modeled. Vanessa and Linda immediately agreed. Thanks, Bonnie, but that lets me out. It's for women only, remember? Just because I'm forced to wear lingerie, I'm not a woman. Hope you ladies have a nice lunch, Blake mildly protested. Oh hey, Blake, it was only a suggestion, don't get your nose out of joint, Bonnie replied. But you know, we could dress you up and do a makeover on you so you could join us. You could pretend to be a woman for one day, couldn't you? I know you'd be passable. Gee, you've been underdressing for so long, so why not complete the look? Blake thought her idea was as wild as the fashion show. You're kidding, of course, he responded. No, she's not, Vanessa replied. We respect you for what you do and how you feel about it, and it wouldn't hurt to join us. Come on, go along with the idea, we'd love to have you. She had immediately accepted the concept and starting planning the event. Blake's reaction wasn't so enthusiastic. Vanessa, a woman slightly taller and larger than Blake, offered her dresses, sure that they'd fit him. Linda had a wig he could wear. Bonnie had experience as a beautician and volunteered to do a makeover on him. They worked on him with friendly, sisterly persuasion until he could resist no longer and finally agreed to let them try, just to quiet them down. Having now confided in the group, he was secure with these ladies and felt they weren't trying to embarrass him, but instead only draw him closer into the group. Besides, he was attracted to Vanessa and thought this would bring him closer to her. Bonnie made the necessary reservations for 4 ladies for the lunch event. The whole idea was beginning to intrigue him. Would he be able to pass as a woman? Deep inside, he had a suppressed desire to try, yet he felt a little foolish. What if someone there recognized him as male? He was committed now, and would feel more foolish if he backed out. Wednesday morning, Blake selected some suitable undergarments from his sample stock he kept at home and slipped into a white bustier over the nylon panties he commonly wore. It's a one-piece girdle, strapless bra combination with garters, which gave his slender figure girlish curves by cinching in the waist to accent his hips. This particular garment had padding in the hips and rear to enhance the form of one needing it. Of course, his own chest filled the cups of the bra and actually showed a little cleavage. He was feeling very strange and apprehensive about going through with what he had agreed to, although at the same time thinking it might be kind of fun. A new experience to add to his career. He had never worn a dress and certainly never thought of going public in one. Accepting the challenge, he now wanted to try it, but didn't want the girls to tease him. He deftly pulled on a pair of tan stockings, easily getting them in place properly without a run, and hooked them to the garters. He seldom wore hose, only when he had to test a garment with garters, and, as usual, they felt delightful to the skin of his naturally hairless legs. Wearing his own male shirt and pants over the lingerie, as he typically did, Blake went hesitantly next door to Vanessa's, as planned, for the makeover. Vanessa and Bonnie were ready for him. He was ushered into Vanessa's bedroom to change, removing his shirt, pants, and shoes to expose the feminine undergarments he had on. He was caught standing in his bustier and hose when Vanessa walked in with an outfit for him. Well, I see you came prepared. My goodness, you do look good in Those things, Blake. Do you really wear them all the time? They sure give you a girlish figure, Vanessa commented, as he blushed and tried to cover himself with his shirt. He hadn't expected her to see him like this, but knew it was inevitable if they were to help him dress. On second thought, he was kind of happy she did. Vanessa was a large but very attractive woman, and now, clad only in her sheer nightgown and equally gossamer robe, she wasn't shy about her appearance to him. Blake had admired and envied her for a long time. Envied? Why did he think that? Envied what? She was always well dressed when she went out, and he had noticed her excellent taste in clothes and had given some remote thought to how lucky she was to wear them and what it's like. Blake replied to her question, "Yes, this is the stuff they make me wear. These are the things I sell." Very nice. They fit you so well, and I see you really don't need any additional padding in your bra. My goodness, you even have cleavage. Oh, and put on this slip. You'll be a lot more comfortable with a slip underneath. Blake quickly overcame his embarrassment and did as directed. He found it strangely enjoyable to be dressing in women's clothes with a woman's assistance, and especially when that woman was Vanessa. He had seen her in all manner of dress, living next door, and often admired her attire as well as her body. He put on the blouse and skirt Vanessa handed him and turned for her assistance in zipping up the back of the skirt. The skirt was full and flowing and came to just below the knee, and the blouse was a thin, sheer cotton with long sleeves and a jewel neckline, and it revealed the articles worn under it. The padded foundation garment properly enhanced his curves and finished the illusion of a female figure. The whole effect felt delightfully strange to him, yet he felt no embarrassment. A jacket completed the ensemble. She complimented him on the outfit and how nice he looked, and he graciously accepted the compliment. Her shoes, sling pumps, with wide 2-inch heels, were a perfect fit, easy to walk in, and gave his legs a superb shape enhanced by the tan nylons. Nice legs. Did you shave them too, Blake? She noticed. No, Vanessa, I don't have hairy legs. In fact, I don't have much body hair at all. Oh, you're so fortunate. Some of us have to shave our legs. Yes, but I have to shave my face. I'll trade you. Vanessa laughed. Blake practiced walking around the room in the skirt and heels, swaying his hips to make the skirt flounce against his legs, then out into the hallway. I never realized how comfortable skirts are, he exclaimed. The fabric is so light and smooth. It's such an airy feeling, I feel like I'm half undressed. He twirled around, causing the full skirt to flare out, like a little girl in her first party dress. Vanessa noticed his reaction and smiled. See what you're missing? Maybe you should do this more often. I've got a lot of pretty dresses you could try. Blake looked at her in consideration of the idea, but said nothing. He was aware that she had a large wardrobe from what he'd seen her wear daily. They entered Bonnie's room where she was ready to do his makeup. Seeing Blake in the skirt and high heels for the first time, she too gushed with praise about how nice he looked and what great legs he had. She said she liked seeing men cross-dressed. Maybe that's why she was so eager to get Blake in a dress. She had occasionally helped her husband dress for costume parties as he enjoyed going as a woman. Blake hadn't expected such a favorable response, and he was getting more relaxed in the company of these Women well dressed en femme, and they were treating him like a sister. As Bonnie applied the makeup, he became more immersed in his transformation, the feel of the clothes, the fragrance and sensation of the cosmetics, the attitude of Vanessa and Bonnie, pampering him in this very feminine environment of a house inhabited by only the two women. This all was having an overwhelming effect on him, one he was savoring. He forgot about any apprehension he had about going to the show as a woman. Fortunately, the loose skirt and his bustier hid the growing bulge in his lap, painfully contained by the girdle. He tried to get his mind on other things but found it impossible with Bonnie leaning over him, also wearing a loose-fitting nightgown and exposing her ample, snow-white, soft chest. It was all he could do to keep from fondling them. He could even see her pointers. But then, he thought, he must behave himself. He was now supposed to be a lady and not notice such things. That thought only made it worse, being a lady, and why should it excite him, he wondered. He was not supposed to be liking this, but he was. He was no longer disturbed about sitting there fully attired in women's clothes, having makeup applied to his face by two women. Why was this all so suddenly appealing, he wondered. And wondering what it would be like to have large chest like Vanessa and Bonnie, there's that envy again. He could feel a wetness in his panties. Bonnie plucked, and using a pencil, reshaped his eyebrows to an arch, and applied a slight bit of mascara and eyeshadow, blush, and lipstick in a very professional manner for daytime makeup. Linda had joined them and was watching Bonnie's artwork. Blake was very impressed by what he saw, but was really delighted when she placed the wig, with its shoulder-length black hair, on his head, adjusting it for the right fit. They all marveled at the transformation. Well, now do you have any doubt you'll pass as a woman? Vanessa asked. Not anymore, Blake replied. Bonnie, you are a magician. Oh, not really, but thank you, Blair, you're an easy subject. How do you feel? Are you okay with your new look? Bonnie asked. She's probably asked that question to many women after their sessions with her, Blake thought, but he noticed she called him Blair. It's different, but will I be able to revert back to being a guy? He replied, trying to be nonchalant while standing up and admiring himself in the full-length door mirror. It was a rhetorical question. A front view, then a side view. He liked what he was seeing, and what he was feeling. It was the image of an attractive woman he was seeing in the mirror. He was a whole different person. His confidence of passing as a woman was enhanced. The ladies observed his reaction. Linda, seeing him standing fully cross-dressed for the first time, was speechless. She said she wished she could look that good. She was dressed for the occasion, but it was apparent she was not used to being so attired either, since she lived in shorts or jeans. She felt strange in a skirt. Linda, you're all dressed up nicely too, and you do look great, Blake observed. Thanks, Blake, but I hate it, she retorted, giggling nervously. Vanessa provided a few pieces of jewelry, necklace, bracelets and clip-on earrings to finish the outfit, and Blair was ready for her debut of joining a crowd of women. What about my voice? Won't that give me away? He asked the ladies, again worried about his identity. Oh, I don't think so. Linda and Bonnie, both a low voices, Vanessa responded. Sure, Blair, I'm often mistaken for a man on the phone, too many years of smoking did that, I'm afraid. Bonnie added, just speak softly and with a little lilt in your voice and be very polite. You'll soon learn to speak effeminately. Oh, and smile a lot. Oh, will I? Blake said, raising one eyebrow. Do I really want to learn? The ladies smiled and glanced at each other. They had plans for Blair. Vanessa and Bonnie excused themselves to get dressed while Blair and Linda sat down over coffee and discussed the anticipated style show and Blair's makeover. So, how do you really like being dressed like that, Blake? Do you feel kinda funny? Linda asked, trying to make conversation. Yeah, a little, but to tell you the truth, Sal, it feels okay. I'm not the least bit uncomfortable in these clothes. I never realized what I was missing. But the makeup will take some getting used to. Oh, so you think you'll do it again? Oh, I don't know about that. But, let's see how it goes today. I'm still nervous about going out in public like this. I know I look okay, but it's a new and strange experience. What if I get caught? And in a room full of real women? Relax, Blake, you'll do fine. Think of yourself as a real woman. Act natural, and nobody will think otherwise, Linda counseled. While they were waiting, Linda gave Blake some lessons on how to sit in a skirt, knees together, legs crossed at the ankles, and how to walk like a woman in heels, taking small steps. He seemed to have very little trouble walking. Sitting ladylike was absolutely no problem and almost instinctive with this manner of dress. He just sat down, smoothing his skirt under him, knees together, and crossed his legs immediately without thinking, throwing his skirt over his knee and tucking in the sides, as if he'd always worn a skirt. Linda was surprised to see him smooth his skirt behind him as he sat down, without instruction. He said it felt like the natural thing to do, like when wearing a long coat. Soon, Vanessa and Bonnie appeared, fully dressed. After a round of mutual compliments, they departed for the country house where the four ladies were seated, with no problem. There's not another man in this place today, I'll bet, Blake whispered to Bonnie. Don't be so sure of that, hon, she whispered back. I'll bet you that not every woman you see here really is one, she said, winking. After all, you're not, and nobody thinks otherwise. This kind of show attracts everyone. Blake looked at her and winked back, understanding. Then, he looked around trying to see if she was right, but he couldn't tell. This isn't so bad, he thought. In fact, it's kinda fun. Gotta remember I'm a lady now. The waitress came and took their orders. Blake, speaking softly, asked for a salad and iced tea. No problem with recognition there either. He was passing very well. Vanessa squeezed his hand under the table and winked her approval. He wanted to put her hand somewhere else, but as their food arrived, the show started. A woman stepped up to the microphone and introduced herself, the models, and their apparel as they appeared in various outfits of sleepwear, swimwear, and lingerie. Blake found himself intensely interested, more so than ever before. Usually, he just glanced at competitors' lingerie in catalogs and price sheets. They were just products to sell, but now, while actually wearing the complete outfit of a woman, in public, he found himself studying the items on live models with renewed interest, and he wondered how they would look and feel on him under various dresses. He realized he was thinking that way and laughed to himself, but he was also aware of the pressure of a massive excitement again trying to form inside the confines of a girdle and between thinking of Vanessa and the models in their lingerie. It wasn't going away. In fact, it was painful. When the show ended, they sat sipping their tea and waited for the crowd to subside. At Bonnie's suggestion, Blake refreshed his lipstick, as they all did. With the tiny mirror, he carefully painted his lips with the bright pink stick and rolled his lips to even the color. The ladies watched him and were again delighted to see him perform this newly acquired skill. After he had applied a full coat to his lips, Bonnie informed him that it was a semi-permanent lipstick and might take some time for the color to fully wear off. They warned him that he might have to spend the rest of the week as a woman or be a man wearing lipstick. At this point, he wasn't too disturbed by that threat. On the way home, they discussed the show, the garments and the models. They all envied the models' figures, their thin waists, and their underdeveloped chest. There were guesses about enhancement or the lack of them. Then the subject turned to the clothing. They asked Blake if he saw anything special he would like to wear, especially of the competition's products. As a matter of fact, there were a few things that caught my eye. Of course, I'd have no use for the girdles and bras. I have plenty of those in my sample stock, and ours are better, but some of the nightgowns looked very comfortable. Ah, great, now we have an idea for Christmas gifts, Vanessa said. I'd like to take you shopping to Victoria's Secret, Bonnie said. Yes, if you go like that, you could try things on, wouldn't you? Like that, Blair? Linda asked. Blake let that pass. Sure, he thought he would like that, but he wouldn't admit it out loud. His silence was an admission of approval to the girls. He didn't need to answer. Arriving back at Vanessa's, Linda bid farewell and started to leave. But before parting, they agreed to meet the next week at Blair's. Linda suggested that Blair be the hostess, whereupon the girls quickly agreed, in fact insisted. He could keep the wig, she said. Blake gave in and accepted the idea before they started their persuasion again. Besides, he did like the idea, but only on the condition that they also dress appropriately. No more sweats. They consented. They wanted to see Blair continue to dress in women's clothes even if it meant they must also. He followed Vanessa into her house to change clothes. It was early afternoon and she suggested he stay dressed, if he was comfortable, and spend the evening. No rush returning the clothes, she said. He was invited to stay for dinner with Vanessa and Bonnie, which he accepted, feeling relaxed and comfortable. With his new persona, he helped prepare the meal and clean up. Afterwards, he behaved like a natural lady and they treated him like one all evening. He went home wearing the same outfit. The next morning, Bonnie called Blake to invite him to join her on a shopping trip to the mall. She needed a few things and maybe he did also. With some of the residual makeup still on his face, and the hype of yesterday's event still in his mind, he accepted, thinking he would like to purchase a nightgown and maybe a skirt to wear for the next bridge party, to which he was committed. Getting dressed in some jeans and a sweater over another foundation garment, he proceeded next door. Bonnie redid his makeup, touched up the wig, and they were off to the mall, heading right to Victoria's Secret. Blake selected a soft cotton nightgown for himself, and Bonnie bought him a frilly peignoir in white nylon. Bonnie asked his advice about fitting a bra on her. Although they didn't sell his brand, he was experienced in the proper fit of ladies' undergarments, having had factory training by experts. She wanted to try some on and get his expertise. They went into a fitting room where she tried on several, with his assistance. She wasn't shy about exposing herself to him. She now considered him as a woman, and he soon forget he was anything but one. He helped her select the correct choice of a bra for her voluptuous chest and adjust it properly. Caught up in the mood of femininity, he selected a few slips for himself and some extra pantyhose. Bonnie bought a few things for herself, but she mostly encouraged Blake to buy things for himself. Next, they went to a department store where Bonnie urged him to buy a few skirts, tops, and some shoes. Blake, returning to reality, questioned her why he needed this stuff. She reminded him that he would be expected to dress for the card parties from now on, or the other girls would be very disappointed. He didn't tell her, but he was hoping they'd ask him to do just that. He was feeling good about cross-dressing now that the ice was broken, and planned to do more of it. And he had 3 women who would be happy to help him. They went on to purchase some accessories and inexpensive jewelry to complement his outfits. She set a goal for herself to get his ears pierced, but that would take some time. The last stop was in the cosmetic department, where Bonnie selected the items he would need to apply his own makeup, giving him instructions as they went along. He listened intently. Now, she was the expert. Arriving back at Vanessa's to return her clothes, Blake changed into some of his new purchases. In her room, Vanessa helped him change, praising him for his selection of such feminine articles. She marveled at the effect of the new clothes on him and gave him a big hug of approval. Blake, alone with Vanessa, forgot himself and returned the hug and added a kiss on her lips. She paused, looked at him, and returned with a long, passionate kiss. Something for which he had been waiting a long time. With their bodies in a tight embrace, he developed a large excitement under his skirt, of which she became aware. She broke away and said, "I feel like I'm kissing a woman, but a woman with something extra. It's strange, but I enjoy it." Blake responded, "You don't know how long I've wanted to do that. Vanessa, you're a very lovely lady. I wish I wasn't standing here like this now and kissing you. I should be dressed as a man. I don't care how you're dressed, Blair. In fact, I rather enjoy seeing you like that. You make a very attractive lady yourself. I'm not usually attracted to women, but strangely, I'm attracted to you looking like that." With that, they kissed again and laid down on her bed. Vanessa became the aggressor. With lips still in contact, Blake's hands fondled her delicious chest while her hands fondled his relatively small ones inside his bra. The feel of her soft, warm hands encasing his chest and hardening pointers caused his already rigid manhood to throb. No one had ever fondled them before. It reminded him of how well developed they were, that they could be so fondled. He thought he was going to explode right then. He felt her pointers and gently rubbed them. She suddenly pulled away, stood up, and composed herself. Straightening her clothes, Vanessa apologized. Blake apologized in return. They kissed lightly, one more time, then she left the room and Blake refreshed his lipstick, without thinking of the indelible red dye. Was she attracted to him only as a woman? His desire for her was now stronger than ever, and he would do anything to have her. Blake straightened himself up and joined Vanessa in the kitchen. Pouring himself a cup of coffee, he sat down at the table. "You and Bonnie seem to like seeing me dressed as a woman, don't you?" he inquired. "Well, yes, I suppose we do. You look so naturally feminine, not like a man in drag. I thought my appearance like this would offend you, but instead, it seems to attract you. Why?" "Bonnie and I had very unhappy marriages, Blair," Vanessa confided. "My husband was a very rough man, very macho, mostly inconsiderate. I never enjoyed intimacies with him. I was never fulfilled. He only took care of himself. Since he's been gone, I've had the occasion to experience fun with a woman, and it was wonderful, the tenderness, the consideration, but of course, something was missing. With you, looking that way, I envision a woman, soft and gentle, but who can fulfill me, having the best of both genders, so to speak. You could be that woman, Blair. Would you feel the same if I were dressed as a man, after all? I'm the same person? After the memories I have of my husband, I don't think so. They aren't very pleasant. But don't you think you could enjoy being a woman?" "Well, I guess I could, for you, but then, wouldn't that make me us lesbians?" "Oh, I don't care. Is that so bad? It's just a name. Doesn't bother me." Vanessa saw Blair start to blush and leaned over, touched his hand, and gently kissed him. He finished his coffee, rinsed out his cup, leaving it in the sink, and went home. He spent the rest of the week fully dressed in woman's clothes by day, sleeping in his new nightgowns at night, trying to adjust to them for Vanessa. He felt a change come over him. He now enjoyed living this way, though he wasn't sure why. After his daily routine of washing and shaving very closely and applying creams and foundation to his face, he routinely retouched his lipstick. It became so necessary to complete the look. Saturday evening, Vanessa invited him to come over. Bonnie was out for the evening, dressing for Vanessa, wearing a new short skirt, showing his stocking-encased legs, and a tight top fitting his small chest, a light touch of makeup, and his wig. He went next door. Welcoming Blair in, Vanessa, standing in a fancy bathrobe, was pleased to see the new woman. She had plans for this evening. She embraced Blair and planted a big kiss. Taking his hand, she led him directly to her room, where they kissed again and fell onto the bed in a passionate embrace. With lips engaged in a deep kiss, Vanessa lifted his skirt and slowly massaged Blake's hot center through his panties to a full excitement. "I want this, my little girl," she whispered to him. She slowly pulled off his pantyhose and panties, with his eager assistance, freeing his rigid organ from its confinement. Opening her robe to reveal her body, she mounted his body, her knees straddling him, and received the full length of his manhood. She leaned forward over Blake so he could lift her large, delicious chest and lick her pointers. This was the moment he had dreamed of. He wanted her so bad, this woman he lusted for. Their bodies undulated synchronously amid moans of pleasure. Vanessa's fantasies were that of woman on woman, a thought she found extremely desirable. The tight walls of her female organ captured, gripped and milked his virgin organ of all its precious fluid as she ended repeatedly. Vanessa had been without a male for a very long time, and Blake was losing his virginity to the woman of his dreams, while in the role of a woman, he was like a bride on her. Wedding night, bringing first Vanessa to multiple excitements, then himself, shooting a large measure of his seed up into her body. But his first experience was that of being the wife, and Vanessa, her husband, and the husband's organ was possessing the wife's. For the first time, Blair truly felt like a female, mounted by her lover. Unabashedly, he loved this feeling very much and wanted more. He preferred the submissive role. He knew of no other. After this unique encounter, Vanessa had found her place and referred to him only as Blair and treated him as a woman, her lover. Vanessa admitted that with him looking like a woman, she found him irresistible, and he wanted nothing better than to accommodate her. He had fallen in love with her. That Saturday night, they had fun several more times in various ways before Bonnie arrived home. Blair, always the submissive and naive bride. Vanessa seemed to enjoy domineering over him, and he loved it. She was a physically large female, very businesslike, very intelligent. She brought out the woman in Blake that he never knew existed. Monday morning, Blake was called to attend an impromptu company meeting. He hated to wear a suit, especially a necktie, but it had to be. Or did it? Instead, he chose to wear a lady's blouse with an open collar. The blouse displayed his bosom in a Warner bra. What could they say? The other foundation garments enhanced his androgynous appearance. He resembled a woman wearing a man's suit, a woman with a man's haircut. He reapplied his makeup to complete the look and increase the shock factor. What would they say? As a matter of fact, he was greeted with accolades from his peers and smiles from management. Nothing more was said, and the meeting proceeded. After his business was finished, he returned home and changed into a casual loose-fitting cotton dress. What a comfortable change from a man's suit, even better than sweats, his usual attire at home. Vanessa and Bonnie had made him aware of a new form of comfort. He was confident enough with his femme appearance to answer the door for package deliveries, of course replacing the wig. His wearing of men's clothes became very infrequent. Even his grocery shopping was done in a dress. His neighbors had introduced him to a new lifestyle. He no longer had to hide his underclothes and could be seen in his yard wearing a thin, tight t-shirt exposing his bra. On his turn for the Wednesday card party, Blair was the perfect hostess. He wore a new dress, heels, makeup, and a lace-trimmed party apron, as he had promised. He had made a light lunch of fruit salad, finger sandwiches, and iced tea. All the other ladies arrived wearing dresses and heels, as they had promised. They were all delighted to see Blair dressed so prettily, especially the stack-heeled pumps. Blair never was one to do things halfway. At the conclusion of the card game, Vanessa lingered to help clean up while the other girls departed. Alone, she and Blair embraced and kissed passionately. They went to his bedroom, this time with Blair leading Vanessa, where they both slowly and seductively removed each other's clothes and made love, with Vanessa in her preferred superior position. Seeing Blair so effeminate had gotten her excited. She had to have him as a new groom desires his bride. Blair, of course, again submitted to her fantasy husband. Blair was now even more motivated to cross-dress to impress Vanessa, especially as a prelude to making love with her, as their relationship grew stronger, and Vanessa and Bonnie did whatever they could to provide encouragement to keep Blair in female attire since they were more comfortable around him that way. They worked with him, giving him instructions on how to dress for various occasions, how to accessorize, makeup tips, hairstyles. Anything to keep him motivated with cross-dressing. His goal, initially, was to be attractive to Vanessa, but he quickly grew to feel very natural and relaxed, fully attired in women's clothes, and began to enhance his own wardrobe. One day, Blake's boss dropped in for an unannounced visit at his house to pick up some papers. She caught Blair as he answered the doorbell, dressed en femme. She was very surprised yet pleased that he chose to dress that way voluntarily and complimented him on his appearance. She suggested that he appear at his downtown office fully cross-dressed, more so than his brief appearance at the meeting. At first he refused, saying this was just a joke he was pulling on a neighbor, but she could tell he was too accomplished at it for an isolated gag and insisted, saying she was going to tell everyone downtown anyway. He begged her to keep it secret, but since her goal always was to feminize him, this was like announcing her own victory, and there was no changing her mind. Like the CEO, this woman was also a feminist and resented Blake's hiring. She had always wanted to embarrass him into quitting, but since his work was too good to remove him any other way but up, he had been promoted to become a manager. Now he knew he was in trouble in his endeavor to attract and please Vanessa, and being hooked on fantastic fun with her in the role of a bride, he was put in a potentially embarrassing position right where his boss wanted him. She was going to expose him as a closet crossdresser, and he expected to be ridiculed since it had been assumed by others that he was forced to wear lingerie, or perhaps he could possibly come out as a transgender in transition and hope to be understood and accepted as a person with a gender identity problem. On the next occasion for Blake to go downtown, enlisting the aid of Bonnie, he dressed as androgynous as possible, this time wearing a man's cut woman's business suit with trousers, low-heeled shoes, black nylons, his own hair, now long enough to style into a short, lady's bob, a light touch of base makeup with an almost invisible pink lipstick and pink nail polish. Certainly, he tried to have the appearance of a man transitioning into a woman, or a woman looking like a man, considered to be fashionable. He disliked the idea of going that way, but it was for the survival of his career. Surprise! He was unanimously accepted by his peers in this outfit, even better than before. They had been told of his new look and all professed their understanding of his alleged desire to change gender, and he didn't dare admit otherwise. Now Blair was committed and had to play along. The cross-dressing act had snowballed. He was in love with a woman who desired him. As a woman, he had gotten comfortable wearing women's clothes, lowered his guard, and been caught cross-dressed by his boss who, being vindictive, threatened to expose him as a pervert if he didn't openly admit to his wanting to change genders, which wasn't true, but might otherwise affect his reputation and cost him his job. After this, he had no alternative but to go to his downtown office totally en femme, as his fellow workers and subordinates would expect to see him so dressed. And, at home, Vanessa preferred to see him that way also. Blake had gotten caught in a web of deception and now must adjust. However, except for the nuisance of makeup and hairstyling, he really liked the ladies' apparel. In time, his hair grew long enough for Bonnie to style with more variety. He became adept at applying his makeup, and he was comfortable going downtown and meeting clients as a woman, in dresses and high heels. He learned to conduct himself in a naturally ladylike manner and received many compliments about his progress towards a gender change. His business actually improved as most of the buyers in the lingerie business are women and prefer dealing with another woman. Maybe the CEO, the old buzzard, was right after all. He began to exceed his sales goals in his new identity and received some substantial salary increases along with a changed attitude from his management. They dropped the hostilities he had been shown as a man in a predominantly female organization. He had become one of the girls. And, above all, Vanessa loved the change and constantly encouraged him by granting her favors upon him. The more feminine he became, the more like a husband she became to him, and the better she reacted to him. Vanessa continued to treat him openly, as a girlfriend, but in bed Blair was always the wife, the submissive partner, and he accepted that position, especially since that had been his first and only experience. They talked of getting married, where Blair wanted to be the bride. Bonnie thought it was a great idea, but Vanessa didn't want any part of being a groom, although she assumed the role of husband. She didn't want to play the part of a man at the wedding. But she consented to a small ceremony with herself wearing a female's version of a tuxedo, a man's style tux top and long black skirt. And that's how they were married, Blair in a white, street-length, bridal gown and waist-length veil, Vanessa in black, with Linda and Bonnie as the maids of honor and a judge officiating. Blake was still a male. Vanessa moved into Blair's house, and Bonnie stayed next door in Vanessa's house. Blair, with Vanessa's and Bonnie's support, remained living as a woman full-time, as everyone expected she would, balancing her career with marriage and the assumed role of housewife. She completely and legally changed her identity and gender and found happiness as a married woman.